X-Pac 12360. Featuring weekly news, insider commentary, and interviews with superstars, past and present from the world of pro wrestling.
A new day is dawning for DX.
And now, your host, Sean X-Pac Waltman.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to X-Pac 12360, your 1 year anniversary episode. We can't believe we made it a year. Actually, I can believe it. Scenery's changed a little bit around here.
Yeah, new intro video, new logo.
Yeah, but okay, the normal cast of characters is here, except for Bill Handstock from Up Rocks, and sitting where Bill usually sits is. I can't thank him enough for coming. It means so much to me. Cold Stone Steve Austin. Yeah.
A little Mike Tyson for you.
You had to get that receipt in, didn't you? I bust your name on my podcast as a rib, so you had to pay a brother back. Trade secrets. Always get you paid back or your receipt in. Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you. Did anybody ever ask you about that, about Mike Tyson calling you Cold Stone?
Oh, all the time.
Did you sell it? I don't remember you even selling it.
No, I couldn't sell it. I mean, I'm dealing with Mike Tyson. If I was going to complain about it, I mean, all they got to do is just give me a right hand or something. I don't mess with Mike. In a work atmosphere, I mean, that guy was gold to work with. And I just saw him, it was a few months back. We were at the Ritz-Carlton drinking margaritas, and all of a sudden Mike rolls in with his family and all of his kind of entourage that were going to do something. And god dang, I was half lit. I said, Mike, man, what's going on? So it was like a family reunion. We hugged and everything. But no, man, if Mike wanted to call me Cold Stone, I'm Cold Stone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he, did you see the stuff he did a few years back with Sean and who did he do that with?
What?
When he got in the ring.
Oh, Mike Tyson
Yeah,
recently?
on Raw.
On
No,
Raw?
a few years back.
I don't
And Sean
remember.
was in the match, and anyways.
Oh, you going back to 14?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was a long time ago.
No.
Oh,
I'm not talking about. I'm talking about
before the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah.
Before
it was just,
before Tyson went into the Hall of Fame and he just showed up.
But anyways, all I wanted to just say was he did amazing on that.
Oh, people love Mike. Yeah, here's the
Yeah.
thing. A lot of people don't know that. He's a smart guy.
Yes.
He's very smart. And the thing that was fun about working with him in the wrestling business, because he's such a historian of the business, he knew a lot more about the history of the business than the boys did.
Yeah.
So, man, he'd be asking me about older guys, this, that, or whatever. He was in tune.
Yes,
so
he
He
was.
was a fun guy to hang out with.
Especially all that WWF stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
he knows
yeah,
about
yeah.
all that. And he grew up watching it.
Yeah.
But
He
was a
loves
cool guy.
superstar Billy Graham, right? That was his favorite wrestler?
I don't know about that, but anyways, I mean, he was.
That
just
would have been a good person to be a favorite
Yeah,
wrestler
no kidding,
because
right?
Superstar, when he came out back in those days when he was spitting out all those crazy promos with the rhymes in the physique and that crazy sideburn and that look of confidence that he had out there. I mean, he was like at another level and he was in a different world. So, man, I got big props to Superstar because really he was the first Stone Cold. Because, when Senior was running the promotion, he was a white-hot heel who transitioned himself into a baby, but Senior didn't really know what to do with him. They take a strap off of him, give it to Backlund. Superstar almost melts down, and he really had a hard time coming to grips with that. And he went down to, NWA, or WCW was NWA back then. But he was, to me, and you can ask Superstar, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he was never the same after that.
Did you? You remember we were talking about on your show the hidden gem section in the WWE Network? Well, there's one match on there. No, it's not hidden gems. It's the old school section where they have like old MSG house shows.
Yeah.
And they had one on there when Superstar came back with the karate gimmick.
Yes.
And his body, you could tell his body, man. You could tell where there used to be muscle. It was just like a bag of bones. I hate to sound like that. It was really rough looking at him like that.
It was different. And then when he shaved the head, it was a whole different presentation.
That's he already shaved the head at that point.
He was doing a lot of that down when he went back down south.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: was it Georgia Championship Wrestling or was it even NWA? Whatever. But when they named that DVD 20 years ahead of his time, he was.
For real. Yeah, absolutely.
And if you go back and you watch some of the old programs of the stuff he worked with Dusty, because they did 3 matches in the Garden.
Yes.
And those two guys cutting promos because, they were, who was first? Was it Dusty or was it Superstar?
I
think
wonder.
It was Dusty.
Yeah.
But I think they were inspired by each other.
I think they fed off each other. They I think they bit some of each other's stuff, like the
But
brother thing.
two
I think might have
guys
been.
bringing that kind of promo style,
Yeah.
it was just lights out, and they drew money.
And you know, how about this with Superstar? If you watch his matches, and he's just jacked. There's nobody even close to as jacked as him. And he does a test of straight, or no, he locks up with Dusty, and Dusty powers him up, and he goes flying halfway across the ring.
Yeah.
It's just tremendous.
Well, he was smart.
Yeah.
And classically, was he the best worker in the history of the business? No, not by a long stretch, but he was an entertaining wrestler who could get heat, and he was in his own world. And if you watch back in those old days when Vince was doing those in-ring interviews,
Yeah.
and he had that Arizona State shirt on, I watch his video probably a few times a year, and he's talking about...
Does he have that hat on?
Yeah, I'm excited, you're excited. Whatever, there's pandemonium in the air, and he starts doing all that, and Vince almost breaks a smile. Dude, he could light it up.
Yeah, you could.
How do we start spending off on that?
I don't know, man, but I'm glad to talk about Superstar Billy Graham any day of the week. But do you remember the first time you met me?
Yeah, I gave you, what's my language parameters?
You're all right. I mean, we just don't drop that.
Okay, I gave you crap about driving that, about a 1978 Chevrolet Chevette.
Yeah.
Wasn't that it?
Yeah, you guys were in.
Me and Brian.
Yeah, it was you and I don't know if Brian was there. Brian, yeah, I think Brian. It was Nash and Raven, and I had a Chevette, and it was not. It wasn't. You know, I was embarrassed. I parked it about 3 blocks down the street. I didn't even want to park it up to the St. Paul Civic Center, and so they gave me a ride to my car. And oh man, I heard about it.
Hey, but here's the thing. One time, like when you get in the business, you always drive, because normally when you first break it in, ain't nobody making no money. So you're piled together and rent a car because you're all splitting expenses.
Yeah.
And then finally you start making a little bit of money, and so you start riding by yourself or with maybe one other compadre. Me being the lone wolf, I always liked to ride by myself. Once I started making enough dough that I could do that. And then one time we was working Vegas, all the boys always stayed at the same hotel, and I said, man, I'm gonna pull a rib, because I still am inherently very cheap. And man, I pulled up in a Geo Metro, very reminiscent of the car I used to drive. It had an aftermarket Sparkomatic radio, and I pulled in front of valet parking, driving that pile of trash.
Where'd you get it?
It wasn't one of the mainstream rent-a-cars.
Yeah.
It was like gimmick rent-a-cars, and it was like $13.99 a day, 3 miles. And I pulled up, and I just, everybody on the crew just basically disowned me. They did not know what to think.
Nobody rode with you?
Oh, no, I was riding solo, dude. When you got the money to afford a $13.99 a day rent-a-car, you ride by yourself. We need to put $1 on a blackjack game.
Jack Lanza and Dave Hebner did the same shit in Phoenix one time. They pulled up in an old Ford Fairmont with like hubcap rims on it, and the whole 9 yards. And they said Rent-A-Wreck on the side of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were proud as people. Easy for me to say. Proud as peacocks about that damn car.
Rent-a-cars. They got a story and a life all into theirself, and now knowing what I know after some of the things that we did way back in the 90s.
Yeah.
I won't go into the details, but you got.
So are you saying you'd never own a car that was previously in a
Not by the
rent-a-car?
boys. Not by the boys. Yeah, if you can mention it's a normal rent-a-car out of a fleet, I
Yeah.
can see that, because they normally take very good care of their cars. But, when Barry Windham, dude, he was teaching Bradshaw how to do a donut going 60, 70 miles an hour. No, a kid, flip it like this. And, they're out there. I think the cops pulled him over one time. But so, they went through their share of abuse. Here's a story, a quick Barry Windham story, how cool he was. I first rolled into WCW. It was give or take 91, only a couple years in the business. And the new guy in the territory, you've been in these shoes before. And all of a sudden we're at the airport. Man, I'm in a bigger loop now. I've been working a weekly territory, USWA.
USWA, yeah.
And Wyndham looks over at me and goes, kid, he goes, who you riding with? I said, I don't know, man, I guess I'll just get a rent-a-car. And this is back in the day, I didn't make any reservations. You just go on the fly, right?
Yeah.
You probably did the same thing. He goes, why don't you ride with us? I said, well, cool, him and Pee-wee. Pee-wee's no longer with us.
Pee-wee Anderson.
And so anyway, got in the car, he goes, it was a Cadillac, brand new Cadillac with a North Star V8. I ain't never sat in a Cadillac, much less drove one, and Barry's a big hot rod guy. And so he goes, kid, you want to drive? I said, well, sure. So we're going down the highway. It was somewhere in the south, Florida, Georgia, somewhere like that. And we're going down the road, and I'm just looking at all the, gadgets on the, right there on the speedometer and all that stuff. And man, I veer off the road and I jerk it back. And, it was kind of scary, because I was going about 70, and Barry, the king of the no-sell. He's reading a hot rod magazine or a four-wheel drive magazine, and you know how Barry is. He just looks at me like this. You okay, kid? You almost killed us. I just pulled back on the road because I was just checking all the fancy gadgetry on the Cadillac. Anyway, that's the kind of guy Barry was.
Did you work with him much?
Did I work with that guy?
Because I know we didn't talk about that. We talked about Barry a little bit working
yeah.
with Flair, but we never talked about you working with him.
Dude, I have several little bitty scars on my thumb that have kind of faded over the years.
Yeah.
I'm working in WCW TV tapings with that guy, a couple of 30-minute Broadways, some other matches that went over 20, many in the house shows, and back in the day, I used to throw a left-handed clothesline because that's the way I was taught, and I switched to the right. But man, I would catch him, Barry, right there with that thumb or that part of my hand in his grill, almost seemingly every match. And he was the most giving guy, and he could have always thrown a receipt. And he's also bigger than me and a tough veteran.
Sure.
But one of the smoothest guys in the world. And he never bitch, complain, moan, or nothing. And he'd be bleeding from the mouth right there. You can watch some of the stuff on TV.
Yeah.
And no, man, that guy was awesome.
Was it a ducking situation where you were throwing one that he was supposed to duck?
No, it was just me being a little errant and probably a little excited. And it's funny because we were doing a little sound check and you were getting your headphones turned up. And it's like back in the day, you know, I don't hear very good to begin with. So I was calling matches at an early age. I might have been listening to Barry that night. And since I don't hear shit, I might have missed something. And so if I don't hear something, I'm going to clothesline you in the mouth.
Yeah, I did, right? But I mean, but when you're working with a guy that's a left-handed guy, and like you're doing a spot and you're trying to duck his clothesline, and you're used to a righty and he's throwing a left, man, you can have a malfunction at the junction real easy on that.
The worst malfunction at the junction is not getting clipped in the mouth. It's running on the wrong side of the arm that's throwing the clothesline. If he's throwing it this way and you drive by that way, it's like, I don't care how smart to your business, we know it's a work, but that was the shits.
That's when you hit the Benny Hill music.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark.
And then back and forth, slow, fast motion real quick.
Yeah, episode 52, guys. 1 year, keeping it real. Good stuff.
God dang, I hate to bring this up, it's your show, but speaking of stuff like that, you ever watch that Botchamania?
Yeah.
I mean,
I love it.
I do too. A lot of people get, because I made a few of them. But god dang, it's so entertaining when you see people blow stuff in the ring, as long as nobody gets hurt.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I've seen some GIFs or whatever you call them, the GIFs. I don't even know what the terminology
GIF, GIF. I don't know either.
Hurricane Helms, Shane Helms will send them to me, and it'll be like a lot of stuff out of Japan, and just people doing these crazy bumps, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what were you thinking? But that Botchamania, I'll get on there and I'm like, holy smokes. I mean, because I love wrestling, and I love serious wrestling, but some of the stuff when people make, or it could be even promo, and they capture it all and point it all out, it's pretty good.
Like that one that Lex Luger did?
Oh, the 2 shirts are too tight one?
Boy, I mean, he's done many of them.
Yeah, but no, this is a classic.
Okay, you got to turn me on to that. I'll watch it.
Anyways, no, but I did a show with the comedian named Ron Bunches, and basically what we did is do like a Mystery Science Theater 3000 style show. Everybody sits there. But if they want to get high beforehand, they go smoke a little pot.
Right.
We all laugh and make fun of, and so I had Matthew, we call him Matthew from Botchamania, make a compilation of my greatest botches.
Oh.
And so I started off by roasting myself, because if you can't laugh at yourself, you shouldn't be laughing at everybody else's shit. But I loved it. I love Botchamania.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I was a big fan of Mr. Science 3000. But the fact that you're making fun of your own shit, because I like to see other stuff, but I just don't like to take shots at guys, because I wasn't the most graceful guy in the ring. But if it was my stuff, or like we're doing you or me together, that'd be great. But yeah, I just don't want to chop on anybody else. Now, that being said, going back to those old WCW TV tapes at center stage, god dang, you know the setup down there, all those little bitty dressing rooms, and there'd be a monitor this big, and black and white if I remember. And there would be Arn Anderson. And Arn was over, and he was highly respected. And you talk about a roast. You talk about slice and dice. And he was over. He was really the only guy who could get away with it. Every now and then Lex Luger would take a shot at somebody, and everybody's thinking, F you talking about?
Right.
You ain't got no reason to talk. But if Arn blistered you, first of all, it's a compliment that he even gave enough of a damn to say anything about you. But he was the king of the locker room.
Why did Arn call Lex Eggplant?
Why did he call
I
him
don't know.
McMahon? I don't. You'd have to ask Arn. He come up with the damnedest. I don't know what do you call them.
There's no
Sayings.
nicknames or sayings.
Arnisms.
Yeah.
Let's call them Arnisms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how he comes up with half shit he comes up with, but it's always gold.
And he had the great nicknames like that, like Chief, like Strongbow had nicknames. He had his, and his were even funnier, way funnier than Strongbow's.
Well, I remember one time I showed up at WCW. I was kind of mired in a mid-card type endeavor, push, whatever. They didn't really know what the hell to do with me. You know, who would have? When I look back at that old footage, stringy ass hair, sometimes I had some remnants of a beard or whatever I thought was cool at the time. I will talk to you about transformations in a second.
Oh,
but
man.
I walked in a pair of loafers. Dude, me and loafers. Light blue jeans. I had a sports coat on and a pullover, nice, like an Izod shirt. Doing some nice shit for me, okay? Some of the best shit I ever had. And he looks at me as he shakes his head, and his nickname for me was Hog.
Yeah.
How he came up with Hog, I have no idea. And he goes, Hog, you dressing up is like trying to put mag wheels on a dump truck. You can put some badass Krager Super Sports on that dump truck, but at the end of the day, it's still just a dump truck.
Yeah.
I was like, boy, thanks a lot, Arn. Would you tell the brass that so they give me a push?
Jesus.
That's awesome.
You guys want to hop in here?
Yeah.
I don't want to bogart the whole thing.
So one of my favorite Austin moments is the segment where you beat up Booker T in the grocery store in Bakersfield. I wanted to know, what was your initial reaction when they first told you were going to do that, and have you ever gone back to that grocery store?
That was the Green for All grocery store. I have people that email me that to this day because that was such a great segment. That store has since closed down and it's no longer in business. I think we only did like $10,000 worth of damage, which I thought we did a lot more than that, so that was pretty economical. But man, I remember going over with Book. I didn't want to do anything he didn't want to do because he's the guy taking the brunt of all the stuff, and 95% of it was on the fly ad lib. We went through the beats, saw what we could get away with, or things that wouldn't hurt him again. Because I mean, it was anything in a store, and man, he was cool with everything. And then I can't remember how Price Check on a Jackass came out at the end, but there was just man, it was cool. And me and Book, we got along as soon as he rolled into WCW way back in the day. Him and Stevie Ray, they were a pretty good tag team, and they were very physically impressive.
Oh, yeah.
And then, Book, I think we were on an overseas trip. And a lot of people didn't know, but Book was ribbing the boys about half the time. And he goes, yeah, man, I'm one of the top 5 workers in the world.
Yes.
You remember
Yes.
that? But that messed with a lot of guys' heads.
Oh, yeah,
So, and I was like, dude, I said, you're too much. And he'd always laugh, but he'd never smarten anybody up. So fast forward, many years later, we got into the WWF. And god dang, we was out there, and me and Book worked a lot together. And god dang, I laid my shit in, and so did he. And one time, I mean, he hit me, I swear to God, with everything he got. And boy, a lot of times I'm very patient on that receipt.
Yeah.
And he hit me so hard, boy, I shot that right hand out and just clocked him. But here's the thing, my right arm does not extend all the way past this point because of all the calcium in that joint. And we got to the end of the match. I said, God dang it. I said, boy, if my right arm would have straightened out, I'd have knocked your ass out. And I said, I'll tell you what, Book, if you and me ever get in a fight, I know I can whip your ass because you hit me as hard as you can, and it didn't knock me out. So, me and Book had a lot of good memories.
And he came to, it's like, you went through Dallas and then to WCW, and he and Lash, his brother, Stevie Ray, did the same thing. I had the honor of being able to work in Dallas, and the Sportatorium is no longer there. But any like memory, like I don't mean for this to be such a generic question, but it's just man, the Sportatorium. The ring, man, the ring. That's the hardest ring I've ever been in the continental United States.
Boy, that summit was rough. I remember I rolled into Chris Adams Wrestling School. And we started doing tumbling drills and learned how to take a flat back bump. And it's always funny because when I hosted Tough Enough years ago, and like Miss America came out there, and man, she took that first bump, and you could see the look on her eyes, and like, holy shit, this is a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. You either like to take a bump or you don't like to take a bump. And I like taking bumps, and for most people, 90%, they dig it and they get along with it. But to your point, that ring was hard as hell. And it was on a wooden floor. It might as well have been concrete. because I remember someone shit canned me out of the ring one time on a 6-man tag. It was me, Jeff Gaylord, and somebody else. I think goddamn, I forget the guy who was our partner. Anyway, they threw me outside. I missed the rope. Anytime you get thrown out of the ring, you're trying to grab something. First, second, third rope, whatever. What's it?
And it's easy to miss that rope because it's so low,
right.
The top rope in that ring.
So I missed that thing and ended up, if that's the apron, down there, and I hit my chin on that pipe.
Yeah.
And boy, I came up and I had a gash from here to here. You can't see it because my goatee's covering it up all the way to the bone. And first thing comes, Gaylord, I think, is still in prison for something.
Something, yeah.
He goes, God dang. He goes, show it to the camera. I got long blonde hair, dumber than a box of rocks, green as grass. Yeah. And here I got this big ass scar. But that sportatorium, the ring was hard. That night I worked in Cleveland, Texas. I got stitched up, 60 stitches, and drove to Cleveland for a spot show. But the Sportatorium was a great building. George Jones played there, Elvis played there. Every legend that was in the performing business played there. And when you walked into that building, you smelled beer, piss, hot dogs, and sweat. And then you got that ring, you got that blood, and you know how those lights, Sean, when they get on that canvas, just the smell that comes out of there. Every ring kind of feels a little bit different, it has its own feel, but all of the mats smell the same, and that is one of the things someone asked me just on my podcast the other day. I did a Q&A, and that's one of the things that I miss most about the business. You miss the boys, you miss the adrenaline rush, you miss the crowd, you miss the paychecks, but the smell of that ring, the smell of that mat is just that's near and dear to my heart.
Do you miss the blistering heat that went along with it and trying to catch your breath?
Dude, you remember? Did you ever work some of those outdoor shows when we were in Bakersfield and Palmdale?
Yeah, or Rancho Cucamonga in the outdoor baseball stadium and all that. Yeah,
it's so hot you can't even get on the ground for a 3 count.
Yeah,
it's like, dude, I'll do the favors for anybody, but I can't get a 3rd-degree burn.
No,
in
right?
The process. Get a 3 count. like you always hate the quick count. I'm like, hey, quick count this son of a bitch. Just get it over.
We were one of those outdoor stadiums in my first run, my first tour, like house show tour, when I got my eyebrows shaved, all that. Anyways, one of them was Rancho Cucamonga, and Jack Lanza was the agent, and he had the shoe polish was bubbling on the top of his head, man. Like legit, it was great. It was running down the side and everything. Bless Jack Lanza's heart.
Well, speaking of Jack Lanza, because Minnesota, I called him last deer season to check in on him, and we talked for about an hour. And I know he was very important to you. He helped me out so much. He was one of those old school guys that took an interest in me, and he was kind of my go-to agent back in the day. So Lanza was classic, and you talking about one of the boys.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, through and through.
As an agent, even.
Yeah,
he was one of the boys. Yeah. If you had a good story when you showed up late, you were all right. Yeah. You weren't getting fined. It could be any number of stories. As long
as it's good.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Well, before we started, we were talking about Lucha Underground. I was wondering how you feel about Willie Mack using the stunner.
Man, I think he does a good job with it. And I've been wanting to have him on a podcast. Did you talk to him?
Yeah, I've known Willie since he was in high school.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so y'all have history. No, I think he's great. I think he's a damn good worker to begin with. And so anybody's just using it and doing it like he is and put some stank on it and make it look good.
Stank.
I dig it. So someone asked me that question the other day. I was doing some promos for Broken Skull Challenge, and they said, "Hey man, when someone borrows someone else's finish, what is the protocol? Do you throw down a phone call? I mean, those guys from Bullet Club back in the day, I think they actually called Nash and say, hey man, do you mind if we do some of the shit you guys were doing? And I said, no, man.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I'm like, knock yourselves out.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it, actually. It makes me feel good that they're getting over huge and they're doing that.
Yeah, but when they throw you a little respect and give you a shout out or a call or something like that, that's cool. But I ain't got no problem with it at all, man. I think it's badass.
Well, when you watch Lucha Underground and you see Marty the Moth, you see Eva Lise, you see M-Dog, do you feel the wrong person won Tough Enough in 2011?
No, not at all. Based on what was going on right then, right there. Because remember, I had to take Marty Moss's belt because his ankle gave out on him, so he had to go riding off in the sunset. Matt, he really wasn't doing what he did. I love him as God damn, what's his character in Lucha Underground?
Son of Havoc.
Son of Havoc.
Oh,
I
Matt
love
Cross.
what he's doing now. Yeah.
Yeah.
He does get this badass shit.
Yeah.
But man, he was really holding back, and it's like, dude, man, you can't play it safe. Safe ain't gonna get you shit nowhere. I remember like it was yesterday. So no, man, the right guy won at that time, and that's subjective. Everybody has their own opinion. So I'll stick to the guy that I picked. But it turns out he couldn't make it. And here to go further than that, I'm real proud of all those guys and Evilise, who I told her, I said, you belong in this business, and she absolutely does. Look at what she's doing in Lucha Underground. So I'm proud of the success all those people have had. And I told them then at Tough Enough, I said, hey man, they're calling this show Tough Enough, but you're going to really find out how tough is once you try to get in to the business of pro wrestling, because that's when it's really tough.
You know, I was thinking about American Idol when you're talking about that, and like, okay, the winner of American Idol is usually the person I think should win it, but they're not the person. A lot of times it ends up being the most successful.
Right.
They don't have the biggest run after the show.
But you can get an opportunity out of it.
Yeah.
And it's everybody got an opportunity out of it, and some of them made most of it, and some of them didn't. I'm just happy that some of them are still making. You know, I'm glad there's companies like Lucha Underground out there. All the companies.
Yeah.
I wish WWE wasn't the only place. It's still the big leagues. It always was.
Yeah.
It was a place that you and I knew that we must get to. You know, for the biggest run.
Yeah.
And you can go back to WCW and well, like Hall and Nash did, and you know, to get
I did.
that guaranteed money.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. I mean, that was awesome. But now in today's landscape. And don't get me wrong, there's guys I know, you know, Young Bucks are doing real good. A lot of guys going back and forth to Japan.
Cody Rhodes is doing
Ring of
pretty
Honor.
good.
Damn right he is.
Yeah.
And you gotta respect people like that who say, hey man, I'm gonna go do my shit elsewhere and see how the lay of the land is and thrive, and not only
Yes.
thrive, not only survive, but to thrive.
Yeah, and look, man, there's a certain amount of fear that goes into making a decision like that. I mean,
You damn right, you got your monthly nut every damn month.
And most people, their monthly nut goes up quite a bit once they've been working there a while.
Right.
No matter what they say.
Right.
I mean, there's your Steve Blackman's out there that kept his bills to $800 a month, as he's who knows how much he was making. I talked to Steve Blackman the other day.
How's he doing?
Oh, good, man.
I
Good.
guarantee, I bet he looks exactly the same.
He
Jacked
does.
up and dangerous.
He does.
Yeah.
And did you see the Bounty Hunter show? Did you see any of that? The trailer? You gotta watch it. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. I wish I had
I'll
it.
send you the link.
Is it a movie?
No, he
it's
was trying to shop a
reality
show around.
Oh,
And I
okay.
still think he should, because he's hilarious, Steve.
Really?
Yeah, he's so dry, man. And
He's very dry.
yeah. Yeah, I can understand why you might not know he's a
I thought you
funny
were talking
guy.
about John Morrison because you did that movie Boone the Bounty Hunter.
That was great. Did you
It
see
was,
that?
yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
I think Johnny Mundo has a future, and that level. If he can graduate to
That's
another
right.
level, more power to him. But
Yeah.
it was kind of campy, but it was really fun.
Exactly.
And it didn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
And there was those great heroic moments in it. And the thing about that movie was it actually had a heart to it.
Yeah.
And then he was doing really good, and they got some heat on him, and he had to fire up the
Yeah.
comeback. Dude, it was a good story.
Yeah.
Shout out to Johnny Mundo.
Absolutely. We had him on the show right before the movie. You had him on too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and man, he was a great guest. We talked a lot about movie fights and things like that. But man, so I mean, he put a ton into that, and you know,
He sold his house.
bet the house legit, literally. So yeah,
Give him
man.
credit for that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so in the Broken Skull challenge, you have like a lot of my friends have actually been on the show, and crossfitters, lingerie football players. Is there anybody that you've seen on the show where you're like, maybe you should try like wrestling, or this might be a good fit for you?
Well, I'll tell you what, really good question, and I guess it's not really any secrets. I'm not really saying anything or speaking out of turn, but Hunter McIntyre, who has been very successful, he's one of the #1 obstacle course racers in the world. It's just a lights out elite competitor. He's about 6'2". I think probably right now he's probably walking at almost 200 pounds. But 200 pounds on him is a big 200. It's like 210 because
Yeah.
he's just so shredded. But he's an elite athlete with a gas tank from hell. You cannot get this kid tired. And because he's so athletically inclined, he's only 28, and he's super smart. I think he's making a run for it. And I had heard that he went down to NXT. He's talking
nice.
with Paul. I mean, so he's going to go down and try the system out and see what he thinks of it. There's been a few people I think that have passed through there that have obviously the athletic skills. I don't know about the personality, but when you talk to Hunter, because he does have such a big personality, and dude, he's either heel or baby. He can go back and forth depending on who my bracket champion is.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So he stands a very good chance of being successful in it. And dude, when you talk about getting into business pro wrestling, and you're talking about success, it's a crapshoot.
Is he a fan?
Yes. Oh, dude, is he a fan?
Yeah.
He has a Macho Man Randy Savage tattoo on his rib cage
Get out
from
of
like
town.
15, 20 years ago. So yes.
Nice. Dudes, a gas tank like that, do you think that's genetic or is that all hard work?
I think you can be born with the genetic potential, but that kid works so hard, and almost like all the athletes that come out there, they realize their genetic potential because they're working their ass off. What's that one, that old saying, you can have all the physical gifts, and I'm paraphrasing, but
Right.
if you're not working to the most of your ability, if a guy is even close to you and he's working harder, the guy that's working harder is going to beat you. This guy just happens to be genetically gifted, and on top of that, he's just super smart, super competitive, will push through the pain zone and works for it.
Right.
That kid don't take no time off.
Wow.
Are there any of those challenges? Because I saw one of them where they're almost like going head to head in like a mud pit or something. Is there any of those challenges where you're like, I'm just glad that I'm hosting this. Like I wouldn't want to be in that scene.
As we speak today, absolutely. Now, had I been in my early to mid 20s, I'd have been happy to get that. You're talking about trench warfare. And that's when we got it. It's about a 40-foot long trench, and that trench is about that wide. And so you've got to get past your opponent to ring your bell not once but twice.
Oh, yeah,
Whoever rings
yeah.
both those bells goes on to the next round. Back in my competitive days, coming out of track and field and football, playing linebacker, running back, I wasn't fast enough to run east or west. I ran north or south. So, yeah, back in the day, I've been happy to get down there and go through the grind. But as the host, I just like to host and watch these people give everything they got out there, and it's a great show. And while you mentioned that, this season of Broken Skull Challenge premieres on Tuesday, September 26th, 10/9 Central on CMT. And this, you always like to think that the season you're filming is the most epic of all time.
Yeah.
This one actually is. It's the best season we've ever filmed due to the guys and the girls that came out, and the new challenges and the recreation of the Skullbuster. So it's going to be very exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it does. But yeah, I'd love to jump down there back in the day, and I wouldn't have danced or tried to swim by nobody.
Right.
I'd have.
Just pop them.
You watch what happens this year, man. I mean, dude, there's some battles down there, and not just from the guys, from the women. You talk about salty, forget about it.
Steve, on the show, do y'all go out and search for these contestants, or does the show just attract them now?
When we first started season 1, nobody knew what it was or what it would become, and so it's almost like the first people that came out were just normal folks who wanted to challenge, and we got a challenge for you. And then all these OCR people, CrossFit was the next one to come through there. A lot of CrossFitters, and I love their work ethic. And then the obstacle course racers started coming out, and people from Tough Mudder, Spartan, all those
Lingerie
organized
football
things.
players too.
A lot of lingerie football players out there, and those ladies are badass.
Because I remember what happened. I think it was like the second season. People started tagging me, and I was like, "What's this all about?" And then I saw a lot of my friends who I used to play with. They started on the show, and then a lot of CrossFitters. I'm like, okay, this is legit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're badasses for sure.
TK, how come
TK,
you
are you
haven't?
putting your name in the hat right
Yeah,
now?
I'm just gonna say.
Oh my gosh.
Bring it.
I put in the application like 3 times, so we can talk about it after the show.
Talk to somebody over
I'm ready.
Yeah, I want to see what she's got.
I would love to knock somebody back. But
Have
anyways.
any of the WWE wrestlers ever asked to come and try the challenge, or?
Oh.
You're ribbing me, right?
Yeah.
Here, no, I'm kidding you. Here you have a group of man. When you're in the business of pro wrestling, I ain't gonna say sports entertainment. When you're a pro wrestler and you're beating the shit out of your body for a living, the last thing you want to do on your day off is fly out on top of a mountain in a desert for me to yell motivational stuff at you, and for you to potentially end up, maybe causing more harm to yourself because you're already beating your body up to begin with. I appreciate you guys smarting me up about taking these glasses off my collar so I can look cooler. I walked out on set one time. I gave my opening promo to the gang after getting out of my Ram Charger, and the guy walks up to me when we went to the first challenge. He goes, "I'll take these."
Nice.
I said, "God dang it, man!" I said, "This is just force of habit." I said, "You gotta leave those in the show. People are gonna pop on that."
Hey, Billy Gunn would show up.
Oh, Billy Gunn would do well.
You know he'd do it too, right?
You know when you shake hands, I just saw Billy at the New Japan show, the G1 show,
Uh-huh.
and I shook hands with him. I ain't seen Billy in I don't know how many years, and we
Same
always do the
hand,
same
yeah.
handshake. It's a man's handshake, and that guy's got a hand like a brick, and it's like, you know, and I got a pretty good set of mitts on me, but when you shake Billy Gunn's hand, it's like a come to Jesus moment. It's like, dude, lighten the F up.
Yeah, when you hug him, it's just like a big.
Yeah, you're
Mountain
hugging
of
this brick wall
rock.
right here.
Yeah.
Well, you went to New Japan. Are you going to be at Bola this weekend at PWG?
Is it this weekend?
Yeah,
What's the
Friday,
card?
Saturday, Sunday. Battle of Los Angeles. You going to come to Reseda and hang out?
Man.
Check it out.
Regal's going to be there.
I have really want. You know what? We just got finished filming, so I might undertake one evening of that because I've been wanting to check out that scene because I heard how cool the atmosphere is and everybody buys in.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, shit's on. Like
yeah.
anything and everything goes. So I mean, like I know Young Bucks will be super kicking like 30 times and stuff like if they're on the card.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Everybody just
They're
says,
on
"Hey
one
man,
night.
we're all in. Go do whatever shit you're gonna do." I mean, there'll be Gaga, there'll be badass spots, and there'll be death defying. You gotta be cool with that because I don't want anybody to get hurt. But yeah, it seems like it's a really cool thing to go to.
Have you ever seen the clip of ACH turning into Stone Cold as he puts on the vest to fight Kenny Omega?
No, I haven't seen
Oh
that.
man, Mark, I put it in the link. We'll pull it up. But there's a fan wearing your vest, and ACH asked him for it. He took it off, and you know they battle over the vest, and then he puts it on, and he becomes you, and he starts doing your moveset, and everyone in the crowd just loses their shit. It was amazing.
Dude, there's only a few moves I did. Flipping
He
people
does
off
them all.
and stomping a right hand. That's it. That's like my whole arsenal.
What, four?
Yeah, it's
four,
a
five?
stunner. Yeah,
That's the
5.
magic 5.
Yeah.
That's how I had 5 too. That I whittled it down to. I mean, I know you started with way more, Steve, because I used to
Yeah.
watch you back in the day
Yeah.
before
Wait, you know,
Stone
here's
Cold.
the thing, though. As you know, kid, trade secrets.
Yeah.
Less is more.
Yeah,
Yeah. I can tell you a story, and I can do it with fewer moves.
yeah.
Well, look at Jake. Jake didn't do shit. Try to work for
Tell
a
me about
DDT, and that's with respect. When you can go out there and not do, I mean, be economic with taking care of your body, that's the ultimate respect. And then you look at a guy like Flair, I mean, the same shit over and over and over again. I mean, that with respect, as he's in a hospital right now, still recovering. I've been close in contact with him. But I mean, he's the greatest to ever do it. So he had a lot of tricks that he could do. Jake, very few tricks. So it all depends on, you know, who you were or what you needed to
Sure.
get, what you needed to get the job done for you with respect to the character that you were.
And I just the ones that got the least reaction, I ended up kind of throwing to the side, you know, even though I was a fan of doing the move.
Right.
Like, I just started going, am I doing this for me or for them?
Well, yeah, no, but when you're smart, when you're doing something and nobody gives a shit, it's like,
So-
why do it?
Yeah, it's a waste of energy, yeah. Yeah.
You've been very complimentary of guys outside the WWE, like Okada. Kenny just mentioned the Young Bucks. What makes you still a pro wrestling fan, and what do you say to the guys maybe from your era that kind of condemn that style?
Man, I don't, to go to that last part of that, I don't say anything to the guys that condemn it because their point of view is, and their opinion, they have earned the right to
Yeah.
have that point of view and opinion. So I can respect or I can understand what they're saying. I can't say that I agree with all of it, but I'm a fan just because, you know, I know like Sean, and dude, you're a wrestling fan, and,
Yeah.
and like from the first day you grabbed onto the business till, you know, one of us ends up in a grave. We'll always love the business. It's just because it's one of the things that I'm most passionate about in my life. And
Still.
so, yeah, I'm out of it, but I still love it.
Yeah.
And so to watch these guys these days, and watch the Kenny Omegas and Okadas, and with respect to, you know, the sequences that Omega puts together in the ring, and the salesmanship of Okada, and you know, Okada's pretty much he's almost like the straight guy. You watch what he does, he's outstanding.
Yeah.
But he's just being, you know, pretty much down the middle, very strong, good-looking kid, big frame.
He sticks to the bread and butter basics that
That's
the
all he's
young
gotta
boys.
do.
Yeah, that he just does them better than
And then
anybody.
Omega's kind of that X factor. He's kind of all over the place with respect to taking the chances, a different character mindset, very
Crazy ways of going in and out of things that I've not seen.
and video game inspired.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You just watch it, and when I think of guys like that, when I think Kenny Omega, I just think a different kind of artist. And I say artist like when I say Bret the Hitman Hart, because he'd paint that canvas, and he ain't painting by numbers. He's painting by feel. And the way the business has spun up these days with the athletic style, that they're capable of these days. Because when I watch, Sean, it's pro wrestling has evolved just like baseball, football, basketball. When you watch old footage and then you see what the games, any game that's played today, everything moves faster, and the guys are better athletes. Same with the wrestling business. I would still like to see a more serious based product out of the United States, because I'm into that. But I'm just a fan of the business.
Do you watch it?
I like to see what these kids are doing. To really answer your question, I love to see what these kids can come up with next.
Do you watch any ROH?
No, man, I just never know what channel it's on or how to watch it.
Yeah.
I would to DVR it, because when I was filming, I had a satellite and a big ass TV in my trailer, so I would DVR Raw and SmackDown. And normally I was getting off work, about 5:36, so I had the same routine to cook my dinner and my 2 meals the next day on my grill. And so I'd go in there and put my food down and watch Raw and SmackDown. But I just don't know how to find Ring of Honor.
Because they're on Sinclair stations, which are terrestrial. They're not cable. They're local stations. So they're syndicated. They're like a syndicate. Like back in the day, remember we used to do the NAPD convention? You remember that?
Barely.
But the syndication's not dead. It's actually making a bit of a
So if
comeback.
I want to watch Ring of Honor, which I'd like to, where do I find it?
Around here, I don't know.
I think you might be able to watch it on the Fight app. I'm not entirely sure, but you
Fight
might
app.
be able to.
See, man, dude, when you start talking terrestrial, extraterrestrial, I don't know, because that takes you back to E.T.
Local stations.
I don't know what the F is going on. Someone tell me how to find Ring of Honor. Always
Look
like
it
when I
up,
lock my
Jimbo.
gaze over here. Really, I'm not crazy. I've been hitting the head with a lot of steel shares. I'm just effing with you.
They're actually going to be here in Las Vegas too later this month in September, actually.
Who is?
Ring of Honor. Yeah.
In Vegas?
Yeah, they're going to be doing 2 tapings there, so it should be pretty
I
cool.
gotta have a real good reason to go to Vegas, man.
It was funny you were telling me that when you showed up to New Japan, like some people were looking at you like, what the F is he doing here?
Well, I thought I was invading.
Yeah.
I mean, and they were like, I think they were shocked to see me because
Yeah.
out of nowhere here I come. But I wanted to see that promotion because I'm a big fan of a lot of guys on that card, and so and Billy was there, so I got my hand crushed. But I was like, when all of a sudden you go back to our days when we were in as someone from a different, let's call it federation. It sounds old
Fad,
school.
a different
Sounds
fad.
good, don't it?
Yeah.
When somebody from another federation shows up, it's like, hey man, what the hell's that guy doing here? Because that's your turf, that's your territory. Now, in theory, they're on my turf because it's Los Angeles
Exactly.
and your turf.
Yeah.
So, but I got the MDR section, you over here in the valley. So, but they were in my backyard. But since they were running, I thought almost like it was an invasion angle. Hey, and it turns out I didn't know the guys were actually happy to see me.
Of course.
Because I don't look at myself as Stone Cold Steve Austin. They still do. Hey man,
Sure.
freaking Stone Cold Steve Austin's here. That's pretty cool. But I took it the other way.
And you were mentioning to me like what really stood out to you about the atmosphere behind
Very
the scenes.
competitive.
Yeah.
Competitive. It was serious. Guys were, and I ain't saying today's business in the state system ain't serious, but it was different. It was highly competitive. It seemed like almost anything could go, and they were all spun up. And dude, this was a big show for them because that was live on. I don't know if it was pay-per-view, but it was live on television.
It was live on Access
you're
too.
live,
the first
live,
night. Yeah.
and then so the second one was live to tape or whatever the hell it was. But yeah, there was pressure on them to put on a good show. They did, and they were caught up in that. But dude, that locker room felt competitive.
Yeah, everybody was like pretty focused.
Oh, the business end. It's like, hey man, on one end, it's cool to see Stone Cold or whatever, however I took it, but they're focused on the task at hand.
Yeah.
If I shake your hand, they shake my hand, that's cool. But they had business to take care of, and that was first and foremost.
And isn't it apparent when you actually watch the product later on that night that
There's some good work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good work, and I hear some of those guys who come out of the NXT system, and I was like very surprised because I'm thinking, man, like Juice Robinson, he was down there in NXT, and that match that he had with the British sensation guy,
Zack Sabre.
Zack Sabre Jr.
I'm a huge fan of that
dang,
guy.
Me too. Well, that match, boy, he's working, and Zack Sabre does like good technical stuff.
Yeah.
And then Juice was selling his ass off. Then he made that comeback.
The fire.
Yeah.
See, he didn't show that in the developmental, and he came in right at the end when NXT part was just starting, and it was still FCW.
Right. Going back to the Tough Enough question about his Son of Havoc, all those guys. Yeah, man, they weren't doing that shit right then at the time. So so Juice Robinson has really shelled out in New Japan, and I think.
And he didn't have the mean streak. He didn't have that.
Yeah, but he's got it now.
Yeah, he does.
And I think that competitive atmosphere brings it out of him. Because, dude, I mean, you know the deal. You go to Japan, you go anywhere. If you can't cut the mustard, they're going to shit can you.
Yeah.
And so, and all of a sudden, if all of your places to work are, you have one or two chances, and you're going to go out there and make the most of it. And it's like, hey, man, I better get my shit together, start bringing it. And speed up the learning curve, come with a lot of fire, and be technically proficient.
You brought it when you went to New Japan, because I remember Mike Enos coming back and telling me that he was over there with you.
Yeah, but I didn't know what he said about me.
Oh man, he put you over huge. He was saying like that you were going to be what you ended up being.
Right. Well, I mean that's cool because Mike Enos was really cool. I used to love the tag team of him and Wayne Bloom.
Yeah, they were really good.
Yeah. So that's really cool that you said that. But when I went over to Japan, I'd heard, hey man, if you don't watch yourself, they're going to take liberties with you and they will beat you up. I was going to make sure that didn't happen. And so I liked hitting ropes. I was aggressive, and I was still relatively green in the business, because when Arn and I flew over there, and what a crew that was, because it was me, Arn, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Ron Simmons, God dang, not Haku, but
Barbarian,
Barbie, and one or two other guys, and it turns out
Rick Rude wasn't there?
No. Arn Anderson and I working our first match there. Dude, we drank the whole way from the States over to Japan. We stunk the joint out. But because we were expecting to work with a Japanese guy.
Yeah.
Because that's how it works. We don't go over and wrestle each other. We wrestle each other all over the United States. Yeah. All of a sudden, me and Arn look on the cards like, what the F?
So did you do the same match you would have done in the States?
Kind of. Arn was leading that match, and I think he got over a little bit better because he was an established veteran.
Yeah.
He knew how to get over, and dude, Arn's a great worker. And he had to take care of business, and we had a match, but Arn took care of himself, smartly so. But I wasn't going to get chewed up over there. The third night of that tour is when I was going to do a splash on a Japanese wrestler. He moved, and I landed the wrong way and tore my right tricep off my elbow.
That why you couldn't knock Booker T out when you
because it all grew together the wrong way.
Yeah.
But anyway, so after that, they started putting me in some tag matches and some six-man tags, so I would have to do less action in the ring. Because, dude, when you first break into business, it's about 92. I've been in the business for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
So you work hard. A torn tricep, you still go to the ring and work. Blown out knee, you still go to the ring and you do your work, especially in Japan. You just don't fly home. That's not the way the business worked back then.
Well, I mean, some guys did fly home, but guess what? They didn't come back either.
Right. But it was tough.
Yeah.
And the business is still tough, but this is still back in the Stone Ages. So anyway, I'll never forget it. We did a six-man tag match. It was myself, Arn Anderson, and Ron Simmons. And how well do you know Ron?
Very well.
You talk about a bad dude.
Yeah.
Nicest guy in the world. Funniest guy in the world. And you talk about a badass.
No doubt.
Two-time All-American at Florida State, maybe three, whatever. But
he's a god in Tallahassee.
Me, Arn, and Ron were working six-mans. And you know how, like I just told you, Arn is the king of the locker room, talking about a monitor. All of a sudden, me and Arn were taking care of business in the ring, but all of a sudden Ron would tag in, and dude, he'd start winging those Japanese guys around, and like, holy shit.
Yeah.
We almost felt bad for him. And Arn just looks over and gives me the elbows. He goes, God damn, Og. It's like, those Japanese guys didn't have a chance.
I used to work with Ron every night for a while when him and Bradshaw were together. It was Kane and I. So guess who got their ass beat every night in those matches?
No, but he gave a gentle ass.
It was great.
But my point is how explosive and quick he was. One time we was working a match. It was a tag match in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. The hottest building I've ever worked in my life. It was a tag or six-man. But I was out there. Ron was out there. Larry Zbyszko was out there. Rude was out there. Sting was out there. There's one other guy. And Rude and Sting had been working a program, so I had a bunch of pre-programmed spots already built into their repertoire.
Gotcha.
And so, man, they were out there. They lit the place up. I went out there with so-and-so. We did some stuff. Then all of a sudden, Larry Zbyszko, who I love, goes out there with Ron Simmons and promptly grabs a headlock on Ron and just squats. He didn't call shit for Ron.
Oh, no.
And Ron was livid. The match was over. 15, 20 minutes later, he'll go to the dressing room, and Ron was throwing shit around. He goes, shit, ain't gonna be no next time. I'm gonna get my shit in. And I'm like, you damn right you are. I said, dude, I'm over here. Remember, I was on the other team.
Yeah.
We didn't even get the ring together. So,
Yeah.
he was mad as a hornet. I mean, it's hilarious looking back.
He could have moved. He could have moved Larry Zbyszko around that ring anytime he wanted to. I seen him take Matt Bloom, 360 pounds when he was one of my partners, and one hand press him like that over his head and do that. We called it the FU slam. Boom. Amazing, man.
Dude,
the most explosively powerful man I've ever been in the ring with. And I've been in the ring with Mark Henry.
Yeah.
It's just a different kind of explosive, the power.
Dude, you go back to one of my favorite tag teams was him and Butch Reed as Doom.
Great.
I mean, you talk about the god dang, those two jacked up guys walked to the ring. Talk about intimidation.
Yeah.
What a great name, Doom.
Even with the cheesy Carlton and Hildegard masks, they were still
Here's the
vicious
thing.
looking.
Here's the thing me and Rod used to always laugh about. You remember when what was that name they called him when they put him in the light blue thing with the
The Gladiator.
Yep, no, but it was
They just called him Farouk.
was it Farouk?
Yeah, and he kept the name even later
But
on.
he had that blue skull helmet on.
Yeah, when he came out and kicked on at
And
Johnson.
dude, everybody, when he put that mask on, it was the silliest looking thing you'd ever seen. And I came up to Ron. I said, Ron, I said, you are the only man in this locker room that could wear that silly helmet and get away with it. And here's the thing, as silly looking as it was, not one single guy on that crew said shit to Ron about how silly it looked. And Ron knew it looked silly, and he wouldn't have done nothing, but nobody was going to F with Ron about wearing that damn skull. We called it a skull helmet.
Nice.
Yeah.
It looked like the man at arms from the He-Man.
He-Man.
Yeah.
So in previous interviews, you've talked about their whole acting career, and it's just kind of, one of those things that you've been blessed with, but you're not necessarily about it. Now, one of your, I would assume one of your close friends, The Rock, is one of the highest paying actors currently in Hollywood. If he were to create a role for you, would you memorize those lines and do that movie?
Boy, I don't know. That's a big if. I mean, what an opportunity. Man, I'm so proud of The Rock, everything that he's done. I don't like to memorize anything. So what I consider, yes. But, Rock has went down that road, and he's thriving in that role, or down that road. I mean, dude, he owns the movie business. He owns the HBO business. Mm-hmm. I guess he's got a YouTube thing. I haven't seen that, but I mean, all of his movies. I mean, dude, he's known around the world as the biggest movie star in the world. So, I mean, props out to him. It's not the road I wanted to go down, but he's blazing a path. I mean, he's like Sly. He's like Sly. He's like Schwarzenegger. When we pass, Willis, and he's a larger than life personality.
Yeah.
I mean, but he's The Rock. And so he's transcended everything into a whole nother. He's taken what those guys did. It's like the guys that paved the way for us in the wrestling business.
Yeah.
Those guys paved the way for him, and now he's that guy that, who will be the next blockbuster that comes in his wake whenever he decides to leave.
Are you surprised by any of it?
Not really, when you see how dynamic, charismatic he was. As he
And how he carried himself
business.
and everything.
Well,
right?
but he had plans and he had a vision outside of wrestling. Life to him, he's like second or third generation, and so he's brought up in the business and came up, for a while dirt poor and got in some trouble.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget. We were coming home from a run, and I can't remember where we were, and I was having a drink. He wasn't, and we were just standing there talking. And me and Rock were good friends. And we don't talk to each other every day, but if we saw each other tomorrow, I mean, dude, we'd be best friends.
Absolutely.
Just like we'd never missed a beat. But I said, man, where are you headed? You head back to Florida? He goes, no, I'm going out to L.A. I said, man, what you doing in L.A.? Because West Coast is over here, Miami, Florida's that way, and this is on a day off. Hey, man, he was out here, getting his hands in, putting his toe in the water. And, he had some inroads, I guess, from the Mummy or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But that's when, dude, this was a long time ago.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that, you're bringing us back a ways.
Yeah, I mean, no, dude, he had a vision way back then and followed through with it. And if you know anything about The Rock, he's a very goal-oriented person. And then one thing spun into another, and then, he created $7 Productions and all the blockbusters and all the great parts. I mean, dude, when you're looking for the biggest action star in the world, he's the first guy that you go to.
Yeah.
And there's some other guys and they're good guys, but he's the number one guy. So it does not surprise me.
I just want to figure out where the way he manages his time. I can't understand how like a person can have all these different things going on, and you know, I mean, Jesus
the
Christ,
team
there's
around
24
him.
hours in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a crazy schedule, and then look at the way he keeps in shape. I mean, I think he gets up at 3 or 4 in the morning to make sure he gets his swell in, and then he goes and does his business. But how he maintains that pace, and then I was in the business probably a little bit longer than him, and then when I came out of the business, my sights were not set on that. But after 3 years of, I used to live in a gated community in San Antonio where all the Spurs and George Strait lived. And I woke up after 3 years of being out of the business. And I left, I was only 38. And that was a tough pill to swallow. And finally I said, dude, you can only hunt, fish, and drink, and raise hell so much. You need to get your ass out to Los Angeles and rustle some shit up.
Well, I mean, it wasn't that much longer.
But my vision wasn't the same as The Rock's. He saw himself as being in the movies and a bigger stage. You know, I saw wrestling as being, for me personally, the ultimate stage and the biggest stage that I wanted to be on. I just knew that once that stage ended, I needed to do something to be productive and fulfill some of my other passions, and so I stayed in the business that I'm in a business now that I'm in. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the memorization process. But yeah, you'd have to consider something like that. You'd be dumb if you didn't.
But Steve,
I would be dumb if I did. Yeah.
Steve, the thing is though, if I were you, I would be pretty happy with your body of work movie wise, because Longest Yard. Sorry, Longest Yard. I thought you were great in that. I thought Condemned was excellent. I thought that was a hell of an action movie.
It was. It actually was.
Yeah.
When I saw The Longest Yard back, I was mad because I could have toned it down. Those few scenes I had with Kevin Nash, I was yelling at the top of my voice, and I was like, man, why didn't the director call me and said, Steve, that's at a level 10 of intensity. Why don't you try a level 2 or 3? You know, and direct me a little bit. And dude, I'm not faulting the guy, but I mean, I was just a guy when they fulfilled those second tier roles. Yeah. You know, all those the ones like me, Goldberg, Nash, Bob Sapp, those guys, occupied and Michael Irvin, those guys, and then Terry Crews has blown up. But those were just those kind of roles. But so they kind of just treated us wrestlers anyway, like the wrestlers, and didn't want to direct us. So I wasn't happy with the performance in that. But for The Condemned to be in my first movie, I was pretty happy with that. But anyway, I got a chance to host Tough Enough, and once I got a taste of hosting that kind of stuff, I was like, dude, I ain't got to memorize shit. I know what's going on. I'm telling you what to do. This is my world.
Well, sorry. Well, speaking of memorizing lines and stuff like that, what are your thoughts on scripted promos, and do you think that it can limit a potential superstar?
I think it can limit it, but I also think it can spark it. And someone who maybe doesn't have confidence in themselves, if someone can write the right words for them to say, to put them on a track, and then for them to gain some confidence and then to proceed accordingly by learning their own style. But I'm a fan, or here's a system that I came up in, and probably maybe you did too, Sean. But all of a sudden, I would be down there in the USWA in Dallas, Texas, and I was working a feud, an angle with Chris Adams, where I started off as a babyface, and I went to Tennessee and Star for 2 months, and Jerry Jarrett, the owner of the promotion, said, hey, we're going to send you back to Dallas. And I said, man, what, you're firing me? He goes, no, we're not firing you. We're going to work an angle with you and Chris. I was the cocky guy that after going through the wrestling academy, after 2 months of being out in Tennessee, I was all this.
Sure.
And so I had everything figured out. I was this experienced, savvy wrestler all of a sudden. So anyway, I started that feud, and all of a sudden I started doing those promos. And it's like, man, someone sticks a microphone in your face, and you don't know where to shit or wind your watch, but you just, spray out some words. And you're yelling, you're saying brother too much. And all of the catchphrases, you make a lot of mistakes. And then your voice is too high. You haven't settled into, talking from your diaphragm because you're so nervous you're talking from here. There's a lot of shit you learn, but you got to go through those beats and that process. So I think the way I learned, and then all of a sudden along those lines, when in Dothan, Alabama, we were at a television tape, and here comes Brian Pillman up to me and he goes, "Hey kid, we got to come up with a finish move. We're a tag team." I said, "Dude, what the F are you talking about? I'm fixing to do a United States title run with Harley Race." And
Really?
Yes, dude, I was mad as a hornet.
Wow.
He goes, "Yeah." Brian says, "Go talk to Dusty." Went over to talk to Dusty, and that was what was going to go on. So my point is, there we are in promos. Well, Brian Pillman was a lights out guy from the word go, and his promos would only get better. We would ride down the road, and he was reading vocabulary books, all kinds of stuff to increase, his knowledge and command of the English language. And he would put his thoughts together, and all of a sudden, they'd stick the microphone from Brian's face into mine. I'm like, well, I got to follow that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like an impetus to like, hey man, you better get your shit straight. This guy's gonna blow you out of the water. So I learned that you better start learning how to do this. And then when I got a chance to work with Paul Lee in ECW, and he was able to harness me and point me on as a laser beam of how to convey my message and the way I wanted to, and out of who and what I was. And at that time, there's a lot of frustration. So, scripted promos can be good if it's a good scripted promo that someone can deliver like it's a shoot that they believe. But I'm just a fan of, hey, you go out there, if you and me work the program, you go out there and say something, let me follow it up. Because I'm either going to sink or I'm going to swim. And after sinking so many times, I'm going to start learning how to tread. Then I'll learn how to swim.
Yeah.
And then, boy, I'm backstroking then. And that's how I learn. And once you get organic and you have that ingrained into you, you can never lose your space. You can never lose a crowd. You can never lose a promo just because you've been there, you've done that, and you've come out of, the Titanic, and you've resurrected it, and you're afloat, and nothing can sink you.
So, okay, when you're doing like a promo, just you and the camera, or you just talk, but like if you're doing a face-to-face with somebody like Cena and Reigns the other night, did you see that?
I missed it. I heard it's great.
Good.
Wow, but man, Cena ate his lunch.
That's what I heard.
Intense,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you saw that. No,
Man. I got a few calls telling me to watch it.
Yeah,
Was it that strong?
it was strong. Yeah, and it was.
But was it intended to be that strong, or did it spin that strong?
I think it just ended up that way.
Hey man, did you talk about a lesson learned?
Because you could see the gears spinning, like in the eyes, like on.
But here's the thing: that's an education you can never forget,
Yeah.
and it will be ingrained. If that was the case, I know I've yet to watch it, but if that was the case, boy, that is a real moment where you think, okay, I got to get together here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you saw, because I think Reigns took you saw, he said, and we're one, and then he went to the second one, and it's just like he blanked. And it was.
But wouldn't Cena said, okay, go ahead and think about it.
Yeah.
Because you're not ready yet, and because I heard about parts of the promo, so I was like, boy, all of a sudden you get called out like that and put on the spot, man.
I was waiting for him to throw a life raft. So, I was like, here you go.
Hang on, let me blow this thing up.
But I mean, I could feel for him, man, because that must have been a terrible spot to be in. But I bet you don't let it happen again. Well, I hope you don't.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. I don't think there's any malicious intent on the part of John Cena. And who knows? I mean, as we're sitting here talking about it, it
Iron
might have been
sharpens
planned
iron,
that way.
right?
Yeah, but still, I mean, one guy than two guys, right?
Dude,
He's gotta look after himself out there.
Somebody's got to carry that thing.
Yeah.
But like I said, man, anytime you go out to the ring and you didn't learn something new, you probably missed an opportunity. Because I don't care how good you are, you can always get better. And so, if Roman learned something from that, and he can capitalize on it and gain and improve for the future, well, props to him. Because like I said, people ask me on my podcast, hey man, is he over or is he not over? He is over. Can he be more over? Yes, he can be more over. Can he be better in the ring? Yes. Can he be much better on promos? Yes. So yeah, there's light years to improve. This was a lesson.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm still down with that. With their plans for him. I think he's worth investing in.
Hey man, yes, I agree with you. And here's the thing, dude. Just think, because people ask me this on my podcast. What if he would have been around in the Attitude Era? Shit. Boy, you talk about a locker room to learn from. I mean, everybody had a knife.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mean this in a malicious way, Sean, but I mean, dude, if you wasn't going to get over, you better get the F out of the way.
That's
because
right.
I'm going to move you out of the way because I'm going for the top. And so, I mean, it was a different environment. I'm not saying that locker room is not competitive, because it is. There's a bunch of alpha males in there. But that Triple Paul was doing an interview, and he goes, everybody always thinks that their generation was better than the generation before, you know?
Right.
But that's how competitive it was back. And what, dude, when you look at the locker room that was the Attitude Era,
Was it the same feeling when you first got there? Was it kind of the same?
It changed. But dude, when everybody was coming up, when you look at DX, when you look at Rock, when you look at me, when you look at Mankind, Undertaker, Kane, I can't name the whole locker room.
Sure.
But that's a bunch of alpha males, and dude, you know how competitive it was back then.
Of course.
Yeah. So would he fit in back in? Yeah. And you had some guys that were anywhere from 8 to 12 plus years in the business that could give the kid advice. These days, with the exception of a Cena or Orton or like a Kane or some guys like that who have a lot of years behind them to disperse a lot of advice, and it's one thing when you ask advice from a guy, and this is with respect to all those guys that's been in the business 12 years. It's another difference. It's a different feeling to, okay, if I ask a guy who's been in the business 12 years, but then I ask a guy like Bret the Hitman Hart who's in the business 20, who do you think is probably going to have a pretty good read on some better advice? Bret the Hitman Hart.
And then you're going by what they've actually done in those years.
Yeah, go to the highest level, go to the deepest resource, and guys who did it in different fashions and ask advice from those people. Why would you ask a guy who was a 15-year survivor, hey man, what did you think about this? Well, who gives a shit what he thinks? He just survived 15 years. It doesn't mean he really knows anything. Yeah. Always go to the highest source.
Well, you spoke about Paul Heyman working with him. If you were to come back and form your own dangerous alliance with you playing Paul Heyman's role, who would you put in your faction?
Jesus Christ, how many people was that? 5, 6?
Rude, Zbyszko, Medusa, Arn Anderson, and
Bobby.
you?
Oh, Bobby, yeah.
Yeah. You forgot Bobby.
Oh,
Bobby's the best workout of the group.
Damn right he is.
Golly, man, I wouldn't even know where to begin. Like I said, I was DVRing the show out there at the Broken Skull Challenge. Right now, I was happy Sean gave me a call to be on the show. I tell everybody, we just finished filming 4 days ago. I'm still coming down from that show. I took a picture this morning, and my damn neck, my head, and my face, and my arms and my legs. I could win a farmer's tan contest.
Your neck red, Steve?
Dude, it's not red. It's crimson. I looked up crimson. I saved it on my phone. Crimson is almost purple, and I'm wearing I don't know how many layers of sunblock, and I'm wearing a baseball hat, and my head is sunburned, and I've got a cap on top of it. I feel like a piece of bacon that's been in a frying pan, so I can't really comprise the list of who my dangerous alliance would be at this time. To do it in a right fashion with giving it a lot of thought.
Okay. To change gears, last time you were at AfterBuzz, you were hanging out with Little Egypt doing the Glow rap. Did you watch Glow this season, and what were your thoughts?
I haven't seen it. I heard it was pretty good.
Damn good.
Really good.
You saw it?
Yeah, it's
okay,
damn good.
I'll check it out. But no, I was a huge fan of it back in the day. Of course, that's why I enjoyed talking with Little Egypt so much. But man, I was a huge fan. Man, dude, those girls paid a lot of dues.
They did.
They paved the road for guys like us, because I watched those ladies, those girls, every what was it, around 2 or 3 seasons. It seems like it lasted longer than that. But I watched every single episode there was. I'm a huge fan. I have not seen it. What's on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I will though. And on that end, Angelina, Little Egypt has sent me several text messages and called me, and been giving me reminders. So I will watch it.
Glow, like the Glow series, the original one, like a lot of that stuff, like the behind the scenes, like vignettes and the him in the phone booth, like that was his office, and just like a lot of that stuff was picked up. Like, I mean, we ended up and even the gimmicks. Shit, that's early 90s, early to mid 90s WWE gimmicks that Glow was doing.
They were. Dude, I'm a fan.
They weren't technically very good. I wasn't a fan when I was a kid of the actual watching the matches, because the matches were bad, and compared to the stuff I would see on other shows. But like you could tell they were, like somebody was telling them the right things to do.
Yeah, but I
It's
forgot,
just
man, who's that Russian chick who used to throttle everybody?
Nanichka.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. She was cool, and she kind of hot.
Yeah.
And she was just throwing beatdowns on people, and Little Egypt could sell her ass off. I mean, Jesus Christ! And then Tina Ferrari.
Yeah,
Ivory. I was a
Yeah.
huge Tina Ferrari fan, so yeah, I dug it.
Yeah, it was great.
So going back to your match at WrestleMania 13 with Bret Hart, was the plan always for there to be a double turn, and was there any hesitation from Vince McMahon for that?
No, hell, it was Vince's idea. And I'll never forget, man, we went to the finish room. This is Chicago, Rose Mountain Rise, my favorite building to work in. And Chicago has these rabid fans. They're crazy. I love them. And so, I was getting hot as a baby, but I was a heel. And like when I'd come out of the match, a lot of times Brian was in the territory at that time, Pillman. And he'd go, GD, kid, you're a baby face. And I'd say, F you, dude, I'm a heel. Because you took being a heel or baby serious.
Yeah.
You weren't, you did. That's almost like calling you a name.
Right.
Calling you a baby face. Because you're getting more cheers than the baby face you're working with. And so that being said, and like we were talking about superstar Billy Graham earlier, so there, and Bret had been around a long time. He was kind of starting to bitch a little bit and piss and moan. And Vince saw the opportunity to organically flip both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that was the goal of that match, was to do a double turn. And so we went in there, and it was just myself, Bret, and Vince. And he laid down the finish. And Bret says, okay, he's going over.
Yeah.
And I was going under, and I was fine with that, but I was just thinking, okay, we would just pass out, because that was just passing out was the finish. And the sharpshooter, and Shamrock did a great job being a star attraction from another sport, the toughest guy in the world.
Yeah.
And he did a premier job, so he added a lot to that match. And me and Bret would tell a tremendous story, and then I walked back out to the arena. Me and Bret were talking, and I wasn't feeling that finish. And I walked back in, and I wasn't going to complain about the finish. I was just talking to the old man. And you got to remember, Vince just turned 72 the other day.
That's right, yeah.
That was 17 years ago, so he was in his late
50s,
40s,
yeah,
whatever.
or early, yeah,
give or take.
something.
But I mean, he's really, really vital.
Yeah.
He's just energized, and had a vision for the business, still does. But back then, I mean, he was like very involved. And I was like, Vince, I said, man, you really think it's finishing work? He goes, oh, goddamn, Steve, trust me, it'll work.
Yeah.
And when he said that, I said, all right, you got it. So I walked back out to the ring, and it's in his book, so I'm not spilling any beans, trade secrets. But Bret looks at me, and we're just kind of looking around the ring, just thinking and putting shit together. And he goes, you know what, Steve? He goes, if you're going to pass out in a sharpshooter, he goes, you really ought to have color. And I said, you think? He goes, yeah. And I said, man, I didn't have no stroke at the time. And he goes, long story short, he goes, if you're worried about it, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll get it. I said, okay. So anyway, we added that little addition to the match. That was the finish. The goal was to do a double turn. And when I canned him out and I go hit that guardrail, that's where all the action happens from that standpoint. And boy, Chicago was kind of becoming a stronghold for me to begin with. And then that night really cemented it. And when I picked my head up at one time and that crowd saw that I had a good one going, I mean, they just came. And I remember when I was laying there in that sharpshooter and I pushed out our bridge that first time, I could feel that blood coming down my face through my teeth. I said, God dang, this is cool.
Gotcha, yeah.
And then I bridged up one more time and couldn't make it out. And then, then Shamrock and Bret did what they did.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll never forget laying there. And that ring was a mess. I mean, it was a mess. And Taker and Sid had to follow that. And you can't follow something like that.
No way.
It was like when me and
There was
Kane,
no buffer match in between that? Oh, hell.
No. And it was like when me and Mick.
Yeah.
And it was like when me and Kane had to follow Undertaker and Mick from Hell in a Cell.
Gotcha.
You can't follow that.
Yeah.
So, but just laying there in that pool of blood, it was like, I've said this before, but it was the coolest feeling in the world knowing that you executed a double turn of the highest level at the highest magnitude that you can. And dude, really, your whole roster is dependent, counting on that, because the more successful that turn is, the more money everybody's going to be making, because we're working on drawing houses. So it was awesome. It was awesome. That was the plan, and we added one ingredient to it. And the old man wasn't mad, and we never spoke about it. It was never spoken about.
Really? No,
Never.
just like a little bit of a, hey, here's a fine.
Dude,
or like, and then
Vince
we'll give it back
smells
to you.
money. Vince is like a shark. And he smelled that blood was like money. And he was like, oh shit, man, that works so good, I ain't gonna say shit. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he never called me aside and he goes, hey, what happened? As far as I was concerned, I hit my head on a barricade.
Exactly. And Brett was the best at that. Like, nobody else even tried to get away with doing that. And Brett could, and you could never catch him doing it. That's the thing. Ever, no. And you know who got away with that? I had Medusa on the show, and she tried to act like she didn't remember, but she totally did. She was working with Bull Nakano when we were at a tour of Japan, and Bull hit her with the nunchucks, and she came up just gushing. Oh, it was a hard way, yeah. Yeah, it was a hard way, though.
Of course it was. Everything's a hard way.
So you retired at 38, and I feel like people who've been in athletics for a long period of time, like, you know, playing football and wrestling, etc., it takes a moment for you to realize that you're finally retired because you always just think of yourself as an athlete. Did you stop watching wrestling for a moment before, you know, you kind of realized I'm not going to come back? Or did you just continue watching wrestling and realizing this is it for me?
Oh, I had to stop because it was too painful to watch. Because, man, I don't live in the past. And, you know, I was 38 when I left. It was painful. That is a bitter pill to swallow when you're forced out into any athlete doing anything or anybody doing anything that you're forced away from. It's like, oh, it's so hard. And I didn't have an exit strategy. My goal in life was to be a pro wrestler, and then I was one, and then I was really hot, and then all of a sudden I wasn't. And that's why, you know, for 3 years, hunting, fishing, drinking, and raising hell was what I did to come to grips with being out of the business. And hell, I watched that pile driver from Meadowlands Arena. I probably watched that, man, I don't know, a couple hundred times. I was like, dude, okay, this is the reason. And dude, I don't live in the past, and I don't even think about it. But I needed to know that there was a reason that I was leaving the business that I loved, and that was a reason, not because I wanted to, but it helped me come to grips with things. To say, like, okay, here's what you did to yourself. Here's what you did to yourself. That's why you're out. So there was a lot of that shit, and I got over it.
So how many years did it take for you to like actually watch wrestling again?
You know what? I can't remember. I've been watching now so long, and there's periods. Man, was it about a year ago? I wasn't real happy with the booking, so I kind of stopped watching. But then, you know, the women's movement brought me back. Hey, man, I think the Mae Young Classic started yesterday.
That's right.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, me too.
I was in my trailer the other day watching Corey Graves and Lita, who's really done a great job of becoming a person behind that microphone.
Yeah.
So I was watching that, and they were introducing a lot of the girls from around the country the bracketology that I had never heard of. And so now I'm looking forward to watching the Mae Young Classic. But part of me coming back into Sasha Banks and Bailey, it was just recently, some of those outstanding matches, the women's movement was a big part of it.
Well, throughout the years, you know, we always heard rumors that, oh, you were going to come back. Was there ever a point where you were close to coming back for that one last match?
No, there wasn't. They would, when I first got out of the business, they would always hit me with something. Hey, man, do you feel like wrestling Hogan? Do you feel like doing this? Do you feel like wrestling Hogan? Or do you feel like wrestling Hogan?
Yeah.
And, man, at the time, I was like, you were Sean, but, man, I was so competitive. I was like, man, you know, hey, I thought there was a styles clash, no pun intended.
Gotcha.
And I just didn't see it being, on paper, it's a great matchup. But in the match playing out, you know, I thought I could still go, probably more so than Hogan at the time, who I have tremendous respect for. But then you're going to talk finishes. I ain't going under.
No doubt.
He ain't going under. So, you know what? And let's leave well enough alone. I felt like I'd operated at a high level, and I didn't want to compromise. I don't even think of legacy.
Right.
So I don't say I wouldn't want to ruin my legacy. It was just like, you know, I did it at a real good level. I don't want to come back and be 85% of Stone Cold, or just for the novelty factor. And like I'm telling you, hell, it took 3 years to get that damn business out of my system. All of a sudden, man, I'm gonna get hooked again. Yeah. You know, I don't want to get hooked again. I'm off.
Yeah.
So another thing with athletes, what they do, the theory behind it is if you played athletics in high school, you think that you're an athlete for like 5 years. College, it's, you know, another 10 years. If you're a pro athlete, you always think that you're an athlete. So when you're working out, do you look at certain people and you're like, I could probably take them, but they're lucky that, I'm at the stage I am right now? Or is it just kind of like, I'm just comfortable with where I am?
99% I'm just comfortable with where I am, but yeah, there are those moments like, kidding me? Yeah. Yeah, but I always believe, I was a professional wrestler, but when I was a professional wrestler, I considered myself a pro athlete.
Yeah, the
Hell
training
yeah.
alone, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
man.
absolutely crazy.
You had a hell of a gas tank on you too. Speaking of gas tanks, a little while ago.
I know, but and what we do, being very competitive, outcomes determined, but in every way, shape, form, or fashion, due to how I'm training, doing the way I'm performing, I am a professional athlete.
Hey, Steve, how's Rick doing?
Man, I heard he was doing good.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say I talked to him yesterday.
Yeah. You talked to him?
Yeah, on the phone.
Nice.
And he was laughing, and he's got a ways to go, and I will elaborate no further. Yeah, because I don't want to drop anything.
Of course.
And I don't really know the whole 9 yards. The papers probably have everything more out there than I do, but all I can say is that I had a great conversation with him for about 5 minutes, and we were both laughing.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Nice. That's all you need to know.
And man, he was in a real bad way there for a while, and he's still got a ways to go. But when people always ask me who's the toughest guys in the business, and normally when they ask that question, they're talking about who's the toughest.
Who could beat somebody's ass? Yeah.
I always put Ric Flair in that conversation because Rick didn't fight. Rick didn't like to fight. He didn't want to fight. He's not a fighter. But I put him in my toughest guy category because that always getting thrown off that top turnbuckle a couple of times a night, taking a suplex, going down the apron, getting clotheslined off, all the backdrops, all the bullshit, through the ropes to the floor. Jesus Christ, I mean, it's my highest compliment to say he's tougher than a cockroach.
Yes, for sure.
And so, people get mad about, hey, you said Flair's tougher than a cockroach. I mean that as a good way.
I just know the things I've hit him with here and there in matches, and he never complained once. And I can only imagine going from territory to territory, some of the crowbars and guys that were throwing some world-class spuds at him, and every night he took it.
But dude, go down south to WCW. Look at the NWA, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, he jumpstarted Flair. I mean, he jumpstarted Sting's career. He jumpstarted Luger's career.
Yeah.
Were they around before him? Yeah. He's the one that lit him up, got him over.
That's right.
And gave him the jetpack to proceed accordingly.
He came to Florida and got Lex over just on a couple little shots down there.
Right.
Yeah.
So some people, everybody sometimes want to say, well, if you've seen one Flair match, you've seen them all. Well, if you've seen one Stone Cold match, you've seen them all. Or if you've seen one Bret match, you've seen them all. I mean, you bring what you bring to the table.
Right.
That's your story, and you're going to work it, or that's your style. There's only so many moves you have in your style. So, yeah. So you could argue that point, but those that do, like, you're full of shit.
Right.
That son of a bitch is the greatest to ever do it.
That's right.
And who would you say is the toughest woman in your list?
Oh, man. Deuce is up there.
She's right up there.
Shoot, Medusa. Everybody, all the boys respected Deuce, and you're going way back in the day where it was totally male dominated. And don't get me wrong, this is Fabulous Moolah, Mae Young. I mean, those were tough, ladies back in the day. But I wasn't around then. So, but hands down, all of the guys in the locker room respected Deuce first because they knew she could go, and she could work her ass off. They knew she was tough, and she was just cool, and she was smart.
Yeah, and she didn't sell a rib.
No, didn't sell a rib.
Not at all.
I mean, she was a beautiful lady, but she was one of the boys.
Yeah.
Still is.
Couldn't agree more.
Were you upset that you never got to work the program with Dr. Death because of the Brawl for All situation?
No, that would have been interesting to work with Doc because I was such a fan. When he was down there in Mid-South, and his run, as an amateur wrestler. But no, it was cool, man. I was so entrenched in whatever I was doing. I know that was kind of I don't think they invented that to set him up for me. They invented that just to hopefully get him over.
Yeah.
And then maybe he could work with me. He was lights out over in All Japan. Those dudes were mega over.
Sure.
But dude, you go back to Furnace and Crawford. God dang, what a tag team over in Japan.
Yeah.
Over in the States, it wasn't the same.
That's why I'm not feeling it. Thinking about like back then, where Dr. Death wasn't where you were. I'm not feeling that.
No, it would have been different. It would have been clunky.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't. This is with hesitate to say this because it could be taken the wrong way. He wasn't where I was
No.
in the stateside system. I was not.
No one was there, though,
But here's the
Steve.
flip side. Had we gone to Japan and worked that angle, I was not where he was.
Right.
So
Yeah.
how's that?
No, it's true.
Yeah.
That's just the
damn
truth
right.
of the matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're one of the most recognized names in pro wrestling history, obviously. What's the craziest fan experience you've encountered?
Man, I tell you what, we used to leave the buildings in some of those towns, and you would be amazed at how many, like, if like girls would have their shirts kind of pulled up a little bit. I mean, I don't know how many skull tags, they call it tramp stamp. I don't mean to be disrespectful. I don't know how many skulls I've seen, you know, leaving arenas right there. And then I've seen, you know, guys with stone cold skulls. I still get them, you know, on the shoulders, calves. I think it's cool as hell. I mean, you know, I would think twice before I got X-Pac or DX, you know,
Right.
tatted on my arm. I love you guys. But I remember one time we was working a Texas show, and I was driving my own personal pickup truck because I only lived 150 miles from where we was at. I think it was in Waco. I might have been working in Dallas or somewhere, but I stopped somewhere shy of Waco to get gas. And I'm real good, and I'm sure you were too. A lot of times we'd be at the buildings, and we stay at the same buildings all the time. Well, you call them the fans, okay? Well, as we talk, man, God dang, man, what's up? Just a couple of marks following us.
Right.
And so to try to follow you to your hotel, so while you're getting your bags out or gas in your car, they can hit you up for an autograph. And we love signing autographs. But sometimes when you're on the road, you know, shit starts getting a little old.
Yeah.
Dude, you just want to do your own thing, you know, get you a beer and a bag of chips or whatever your deal is going down the road. I pulled into the gas station, and the guy says, "Hey, Stone Cold, can I get an autograph?" I said, "God dang." I use the other word. I said, "God dang." I said, "You've been following me about 150 miles." He goes, "Yeah, I was wondering when you were going to stop for gas." He goes, "Can I get an autograph?" I said, "You damn right you can."
Dedication.
There's been all kinds of crazy shit that has happened, but when I got someone in my rearview mirror for $1.50 and I pull over to pump up some gas, I got to give them a damn autograph.
Hell yeah.
So what's the best way for fans to approach you out in public then?
Don't call me Steve Williams or Mr. Williams. I can't stand that. I legally changed it. When I was born, my name was Stephen James Anderson. My parents got a divorce. She moved to Victoria, met Ken Williams. He adopted me and my two brothers. We had another brother and sister that they had. We're all full-blooded, we consider. So when he adopted us, we changed our name to Williams. So I was Stephen James Williams. Many years ago, to make things more doable for me doing business, I legally changed my name to Steve Austin. There's no middle name, it's Steve Austin. That is who
Nice.
and what my name is. And that's with respect to my real father, my stepfather, who I consider my real father. My name is Steve Austin. So don't think that you're going to be smart by calling me, "Hey, Mr. Williams." Yeah, that's who I used to be, but for a long time, if you want to call me Mr., call me Mr. Austin. I just prefer that you call me Steve. But don't use the Williams name because you think you're on the inside. Because you're on the outside, because that shit happened 15 years ago.
Nice.
Hey, just call me Steve.
I didn't know that you actually went through the steps of changing it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
smart.
Well, it
That's
made
smart.
things a lot of, all the DBAs, all the bullshit.
Make
And
it
the
so much
thing is,
easier.
man, like, that's what people know you as.
Right.
You know, except for the smart ones.
Well, but here's a story for you, and I want to mean this in the right way with big respect to Jim Hellwig,
Yeah.
Ultimate Warrior.
Sure.
You know, before Warrior passed, I hadn't talked to him probably about a year, and I'd called him on the phone a few times to ask him a few questions about nutrition because I figured if anybody know, Jim would know because he always looked like $1 million.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's like watching the best worker in a business, or sometimes it's just naturally given to him, like a Flair. He was just a great worker. He could also give you tips, but Jim had great genetics to begin with.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had a few phone conversations with him, and this is after he changed his name to Warrior. So I had gotten his number through, I can't remember how I got his phone number, and I'm talking to him on the phone, and I'm thinking, wow, hey, Warrior.
Yeah,
I
how
feel
does
like
that
a
go?
mark. I feel like a mark. Well, I'm calling him Warrior. And like when I don't know someone's name, I'll just say, "Hey, man."
Were you waiting for him to go? Were you waiting for him to go? Oh, you can call me Jim.
That's what I'm saying. But when you don't know somebody's name, you're like, God dang, what's that dude's name? So you got to say, you just say, hey, man, you never get around to calling him her name because you don't know it. Well, here's Warrior. I know his name is Jim. But, just like you just said, I'm waiting for him to say, Steve, man, just call me Jim.
Did he ever
And he
say
never
it?
did. No. But out of respect, Jim was a smart guy.
Yeah.
He was an interesting guy. And I barely knew him. When I first came to the company and they had that first WrestleMania that I was a part of was 12, and I was in L.A. And because that was when Roddy Piper and
That's
Bill
right. Oh, you were here for that?
Yeah, I was in it.
Oh, that's right.
I wrestled Savio Vega, I think.
Yeah.
No, I wrestled somebody. I can't remember.
In
My
a
point
scrap
is,
match, I
That
think.
was when he ate. That was when he ate Paul up.
Yes.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So I think maybe on the undercard or first match I worked with Savio. Whatever happened. But you know what? There we were, as me and Dustin and Warrior.
Yeah.
And dude, I was just in the company. It was on the bottom of the card. Nobody saw shit in me. And he always treated me with respect and was very cool to me. And I never forgot that about him. So that's one of the reasons. First of all, I thought the Warrior gimmick was great. He personified the Warrior. He got that gimmick over. Nobody else could have been the Ultimate Warrior. I remember the Renegade Warrior down here in Florida. With respect to that guy, committed suicide.
Yeah.
That was a copycat gimmick. I don't want to say rip off a copycat gimmick, and it didn't work out. But Warrior was a unique individual. And dude, I used to go to the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, when he was
The Dingo
Dingo Warrior. So I was a fan from way back. The physique and the tied off bands on his arms and everything. But I always liked Warrior because he was cool to me from Jump Street from day one.
He was cool to me, and I wasn't even like. I didn't even work in the same company as him.
That's what I'm saying. He
Yeah,
had no
he
reason to
even
be
knew
cool
who
to
I
me.
And see,
I remember shit like that.
Exactly, and his work, like, was always, people would always trash his work, but then when I go back and watch it, man, his work didn't suck. He worked hard.
Yeah.
He worked hard. He just did, the stuff that people wanted to see the Ultimate Warrior do. Everyone else could do all the other stuff.
And he used to always post these interviews on YouTube, and he would be talking about where he was going in his head as the character of the Warrior. Yeah. And I was like, first of all, I always liked his promos. The one time that the company made that DVD, the Destruction of the Warrior or whatever, and there was animosity there between the company, and it's since mended. And thankfully so, when he went into the Hall of Fame at 32 in New Orleans. But people were ragging on his promos, and I'm like, dude, here's the thing. What is a promo for? It's to deliver a message, either to the crowd or to your opponent of who and what you are, what's about to happen. And when he's talking about going to a place in his head, and he did, and you believe in that character, then that is considered a very good promo.
Man.
So he inspired belief to the Warrior. So when people started shitting on his promos now, if you think context and you think content of the promo, some of it was a little out there, but it was always true to the Warrior character. So therefore, it made sense. Hey, talking about and you got to be at a certain level to get there and like, hey man, I'm going with this. I appreciate that.
Yeah, me too.
Dude, that takes balls.
And there was nothing about his promos that were like anyone else's.
No, there's nothing about it, but if Father and endorsed it and put a stamp on this is who the Warrior is.
Yeah.
So who are some guys that you never got to work with that you would have liked to work with?
Well, I always talk about Hogan, Superstar Billy Graham.
Did you ever work with Dusty?
God dang. One time I was in back of a Southwest airplane, and me and Dusty were sitting next to each other. No was the answer to your question. I don't think so. I don't remember. Dude, I forgot so many things. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But no, I don't think I ever worked with Dusty, but I remember one time we was riding Southwest, and Southwest, like 3 rows, 3 seats, and you're like, I think we were on the side with just 2 seats, and I was sitting there next to Dusty, and I was like, he's a pretty big guy. And he was like halfway in my seat. And I'm sitting to, my mother went to high school with Dusty.
Yeah.
She was younger than him, but they went to Austin High School together. Me and Dustin were born in the same hospital together. And I grew up, he was one of my inspirations of getting into the business because he had got color. Someone had an iron claw on him. This is Houston wrestling. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting next to the legendary Dusty Rhodes, and I finally look at him and I said, God damn, Dusty. I said, can you get in your own seat? And we laughed for about 200 miles about that shit. To work a real program with Dusty would have been awesome.
Yeah.
To really work a story with greater depth and detail with the magnificent Bobby Eaton. I'll never forget winning my first title. Well, Gary Hart had dropped the tag team titles in wrestling, a different organization in Dallas, to me and Rod Price back in the day. But that was my first belt I ever held, a world television title. And I couldn't lace Bobby Eaton's boots. But to really work a program with him, in his prime, me in my prime, would have been great. And I always loved working, mainly with Brett. God dang, man, I'm leaving so many people.
Kevin Owens.
Well, it'd been fun to work with any of the guys off the current roster. I would always want to work with John Cena. I'd love to work with Roman Reigns, because I guarantee you, what I could get out of Roman Reigns, what I could get out of John Cena. And John Cena's had some high-profile matches that were outstanding with a bunch of guys, and I totally respect the run he's had. I think he's had one of the greatest runs of all time. I could get something that has never been gotten out of that guy. I just promise you think, dude, what are you talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
I would light a fire under his ass.
There's taking somebody to dance, and he's been a dance,
Right.
and then there's the Dances with Stars.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you said it. But, man, AJ Styles. Hell, man, Kenny Omega over in Japan, Okada, some of these cats. I can't just sit there and give you a laundry list of people, but those are some people that come off right off the bat.
Have you seen any of the Southpaw Regional Wrestling?
Man, didn't they just release season 2?
Season
Yeah.
2, yeah.
I have not seen one episode because I've been filming, but I watched all of season 1, probably seen every episode 6 times.
And
Jesus Christ, Rusev talking about the chickens, and he almost breaks character. And Cena as the announce guy, shades of Lance Russell, huge fan. I love it. So I'm about to watch season 2, but yes, man, those two those promos that Gallows and Anderson did,
Tex Ferguson and
Chad Too Bad.
Bad.
Oh God, yeah, I think it's money.
Would you like to be in season 3, possibly cameo?
Oh,
in season 3?
I don't know. I don't know. I sent, when I first saw that, I sent someone involved. I thought they were involved in text. I said, man, Southpaw is the shit.
yeah,
And they're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, dude, don't y'all produce this? That's WWE, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, they almost kayfabed me. I was like, man, this shit is good. It's awesome. It's so campy and hokey and fun. I love everybody that's part of it. And then, hell, you know what they're doing with the Fashion Police?
yes.
I hated that Fandango character. And that's a good-looking guy, good
Yeah.
body, pretty good worker.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they put him and Tyler Breeze together, and I was watching Tyler Breeze down there in NXT, and all of a sudden, they put the Fashion Files. I'm like, man, when I watch Monday Night Raw, I'm not a comedy guy. I'm an entertainment guy.
Sure.
Those guys, they crack me up. I'll rewind their shit I don't know how many times.
That stuff reminds me of like how I used to like Fuji Vice back in the day. You ever see that?
No.
Oh, do you remember TNT?
Yeah.
Well, that was like a segment that. Did you ever see
Yeah,
the Fuji
Morocco
Vice stuff?
and-
If you go back and watch it, it is so bad. It's good. It's amazing, man. It's just a Miami Vice.
Yeah,
rip-off.
but the thing about Southpaw is it's like I said, they found the VCR tape from the 80s,
Yeah.
and it's all it remains. It's
Some people feel like, and I kind of thought this when I first heard about it, that they were making fun of the old territory days.
Oh no,
No.
man!
So
I
everybody's
didn't think
in on
that
it.
at all. I thought it was. I was down with it, man.
Yeah.
'Cause it's
Well, Mark Madden said
Well, you
that.
know what? It was that. Mark Madden's a very smart guy,
Yeah.
and he's very opinionated. So
Yeah.
I can respect his opinion.
Yeah, me
But
too.
dude, when it says Southpaw Regional Wrestling, I mean that's kind of like the heads up. That's why it's regional. And
Right.
Lance Catamaran's always talking about the job he used to have
In Utica, New York.
Yeah. Oh no, dude, I know it almost all by heart. I loved it.
That's awesome. So you've had your face on everything from toothbrushes to cups to, you can name it, action figures. What is your least favorite piece of merchandise that was made for you?
When they came up with them condoms.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that's serious.
Well, your face on the condom?
No, it wasn't my face, but it said Austin 316, and when you open the Matchbox thing, there's a condom. Oh, yeah, you'll find it. And I'm like, yeah. I don't know if I want the 316 wrapped over someone Johnson.
I was gonna say, I thought maybe like your head, like your face was right there in the reservoir, tipping the nose or something.
Yeah. But so
Yeah, it's kind of awkward.
see right there. So I wouldn't say my
Jesus.
face on, but no, it wasn't. Well, here's the thing. You know when they got your name or your likeness or what you said on a condom, you pretty well made it.
For sure.
So I guess it speaks to that. But it's like, hey man, if you ain't got one yet, here's a condom for you. It's not one who kind of like you can have that T-shirt, a baseball cap, or this or that, a foam finger. But hey man, here's a condom.
Hey, we're gonna have to get going here pretty
No,
soon,
give
man.
us a go home cue, man.
No, I just
I feel it.
Yeah, I just man. Anyways, but I want to ask you if you had seen any like Brian Pillman's son. Have you seen that guy? He looks just like him.
Yeah. I haven't seen a picture of him lately, but I call Brian every few months, and so I've had his phone number. I don't know how this happened. Here's a quick story. I was down at my ranch. I've since sold it, and for some reason, I remember when Brian passed. I had his. Remember when Steve Cardillo used to make all the boys' belts?
Yeah.
I had Brian's belt. I mean, Jesus Christ, the thing is tiny because his waist was so small, and it had flying on the back of it. And I found Brian's phone number, and I said, "Hey man, this is Steve Austin." I said, I don't know how I became the owner of this belt, but I think if anybody should have it, it should be you. And I said, if you'll send me your address, I will send it to you. And so I mailed little Brian his dad's belt. And so he now has that thing. I've heard that he's trying to pursue the business of professional wrestling. I haven't seen him lately, but
It's
he texted me
scary
a couple
how
of
much
pictures.
he looks like his
And,
dad.
I talked to him, and you can get a sense that there's a lot of Brian there.
Really?
Yeah.
And even like his body, the physique, I mean, it's
Well,
it's
he's
amazing.
into yoga. He's into a lot of neat stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the mother's doing right now, but she was very beautiful. Brian was a good-looking guy with great genetics.
Yeah.
A terror on the football field, high IQ. So I mean, he's got good genetics.
Yeah.
So we'll see what he can make of it.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what happens. Hey, how's family back home? The flood affecting your
My
stuff?
parents, my mom and dad's, they have electricity. They lost power for a little bit, but they're out of harm's way there in Edna. My two brothers and my sister still have electricity, and they're fine because they're not in an area that's going to flood in Edna. And then in Houston, man, when I was filming the show and I first found out about the hurricane, I almost thought it was a rib. And then I was joking with my buddy who lives in Rockport, the town where it landed. And
oh my God, Rockport's just devastated.
Dude, it rocked them.
It's gone.
And I was talking to him. He's on my podcast tomorrow, and his house came out unscathed, and he built it. And it's a small house, and he got lucky. And we were talking about that hurricane. It was almost like he started sending me pictures afterwards, and it was almost like he had PTSD. I swear to God. He was trying to play the tough guy on the podcast, and this is one of my very best friends.
Yeah.
But by the end of it, you could see that guy was still in shock because he's been there for I don't know how many years, and he'll never leave. And to see all the houses that he built, all his friends' places that he worked on, and the people are going there and they're picking up silverware in the yard, a towel here, this, that, or whatever, pieces of their lives, and some people's shit is just blown completely. It's gone. Mm-hmm. And then when you see Houston. And that whole area is just completely underwater, and that's my old stomping grounds.
Yeah.
So it's just devastating, and a lot of people don't. I don't think they even take it serious enough that so many people have lost everything. I mean, a couple 100,000 people over there, and God, we're really grinding my gears. I don't know if y'all heard about this. That one guy down there from Florida was like, yeah, that's what they get for voting Trump.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, what an asshole! Hey,
Yeah.
You don't bring politics into this. This world. This is a natural disaster, and nobody. Whatever you voted on, or even if you did vote, all of a sudden you're going to.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed.
This is what you deserved it. No, dude, F you.
Yeah, I'm really disappointed on a lot of people on both sides of things.
You can't bring, you don't
You
bring
can't wait till the
politics into this.
storm even ends and we get people at least, to safety. I mean, before we
But
start.
it's going to be months before the water leaves,
Yeah.
and it's going to be years for that town to rebuild. I was just talking when you came up to me outside.
Yeah.
I was just talking to my buddy. It's the first time I'd heard from him in Houston, and he grew up there. I played junior college football with him, and I said, "Dude," I said, "here's the thing. You're from there." And I said, that the Houston, it no longer exists. It might come back as 2 or 3 different cities because of the way those bayous and the floodplains and everything is. It'll never be the same. And then, it's like Katrina. When Katrina happened, so many people were displaced. They found roots in a lot of Texas towns. So now a lot of the people that will be displaced from the Houston area will find a set of roots in a different town and just won't go back. So that town will never be the same.
Wow.
My thoughts, I've made donations to the organization that I have. So if you listen to this and you got anything to spare, $2, $5, $10, whatever organization you choose, hey man, if you can make a donation to help somebody out down there, I'm sure it would be appreciated.
Yeah, you can go to ghcf.org/hurricane-relief. And also, if you're in the LA area, there's different places where you can hand out clothing or give in clothing and stuff to send down to Houston. So if you feel like if you don't have the funds, you can definitely give something else. And they're also looking for volunteers to go down there as well.
Oh, thank you for that. I didn't know about the LA thing because I got all kinds of stuff.
I'll send you the thing.
you.
It's really, it's just
It's terrible.
so sad.
As just a last plug, I'd like to just say Broken Skull Challenge comes out on Tuesday, September 26th at 10 9 Central on CMT. It's a real awesome season, and I think when you see the super trailer, you'll agree with me. And my thoughts with everybody in South Texas.
Right on.
Appreciate you finally having me on the damn show.
Yeah.
Sink your battleship like you was able to sink mine.
Who do you have on the show this week?
Talking about Buddy tomorrow,
Yeah.
and then that filming that show is very intense. Like I said,
Yeah,
you
man.
helped me out. Don Callis helped me out. I got a couple in the can, so I'll start from scratch starting next Tuesday.
Right on. All right.
You want to come over and do a podcast?
I'd be happy to. I just don't know.
I'm messing with you, dude. I'm just messing with you.
I know
We'll
you
let
are,
it breathe a
but-
little bit.
yeah.
Trade secrets.
No kidding.
You should go to see you do some of the challenges at the ranch.
Not a chance. This body is. I'm in way worse shape than Steve is.
He's going to
Way
save
worse
his
shape.
body for bar wrestling on September 7th.
I have a show.
And then
Yeah, I'm
he has
actually
a
doing a show
seminar.
around here.
Are
Steve.
you?
Yeah.
I got to be
With
there.
Joey Ryan.
I don't never like to heckle anybody. I'll come over and heckle
Come
you.
do it. Hey, Hey, before we go, you were going to tell me about transitioning.
What?
I'm assuming you're talking about my hair or something. I don't know.
No, transition.
No, remember we
You're
were
talking about
talking
a
earlier.
transition of
Yeah.
character over time.
Oh, yes. Well, when I look back,
I thought you were trying to tell me to shave my head.
No, it was one of the things. It was kind of a long-winded discussion. It was like when you first got into business.
Yeah.
Just take a picture then to where you ended up. With a DX, the cross shop. And when I started off with the long tights.
Yeah.
And then ended up with the
Oh,
short
gotcha.
tights, the shitty hair, the stupid beard that never worked, the short haircut trying to copy Ric Flair, and then finally end up. When you take snapshots of your career, you can look. I would love to take pictures of me during all the different various incarnations of whoever Steve Austin was. Go down to the NXT Performance Center and say, "Look at this guy. There's not one single dollar sign, not even a cent sign written on him anywhere." But I stuck with it long enough that this is what it became, and so that you always believe in yourself and never be afraid to push the envelope creatively from a look standpoint, persona or character standpoint. Always search and don't give up on yourself, because if I'd have gave up on myself, based on now when I look back, man, I'd been
Gotcha.
selling used cars somewhere. With all due respect to used
Did you
cars.
feel like when each time you made a transition, was it difficult? Like, oh, I want to hold on to this, like that I work,
You're going
this
in
many years?
uncharted territory,
Yeah.
and like, well, what works? What works?
Yeah. Like I'm honestly, the reason why I brought that up is I thought you were giving me shit about my hair. Because I've been thinking about shaving my head for the longest time, but people, like, I still have some hair, and when I put the bandana on, I still kind of look like, Attitude Era X-Pac.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm not on TV every week, Steve, so it's kind of hard to do a look change when you're not on TV every week, so people can see the new look.
Dude, I think you got plenty of hair.
Okay, thank you. That's
Save
all
it.
right. That's
Rock
all
it.
I needed to hear,
Don't shave
and
it.
we'll see you next week right here on X-Pac 1, 2, 3, 60.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, Sean Waltman, producers Jimbo Frank and TK Trinidad, managing producer of AfterBuzz TV Wrestling Mark Donica, and the entire X-Pac 12360 staff, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Like us on Facebook, rate and comment on iTunes and YouTube, follow X-Pac on Twitter @TheRealXpac, and email us at xpac12360show@gmail.com. This has been a presentation of the AfterBuzz TV Network. Buzz ya later!